Right, so in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can seed a lawn from scratch. This is the third part of my complete lawn renovation series. So if you'd like to check out the first couple of parts where I actually killed this lawn using Roundup weed killer, and then how I actually leveled it with topsoil, there'll be links in the description below, or you can head over to my channel and see them there. Now, I actually leveled this lawn with the topsoil 2 days ago, and the reason why I'm only waiting until now to actually seed it is that the weather has been awful ever since, and you can probably tell from these shots now that the soil is still a little bit moist. And that's actually given us a good chance to see the actual makeup of this roll-on topsoil. Now, for the most part, it's looking really nice and really smooth. However, you can see there are a few stones knocking about, only small stones, because this soil was screened to around about 20 mil. So stuff like this is to be expected. You know, you can see that there is the odd twig knocking about, some bigger, some smaller. So there are a few pieces of wood in here, but you can see they do break up easily between your fingers. They are, you know, bits of organic matter that will degrade over time. And then if you get even closer here, you can see there's quite a bit of sand content in the soil. Now, having sand in your topsoil is a good thing. What it does help to do is get a nice smooth surface, and that sand isn't going to degrade over time. It's going to stay in the soil and it's going to keep it nice and smooth. But today's video isn't about the topsoil, it's about getting on with some seed. Now, before you get the new seed down onto a newly leveled surface, what you've got to do is break up the actual top layer of the topsoil, and that way when you put the seed down, it enables sort of small little crevices and channels for that seed to sit into, so that it's not sitting directly on this flat surface. Now, like I said a little bit earlier in this video, it has rained quite a lot for the past couple of days. It's only just sort of stopped in the past 3 to 4 hours, so the soil is still drying out, so it's going to be a little bit moist. But if anything, that's a good thing, because once I get the seed down onto the soil, it's already going to have that sort of moist environment for it to actually settle into. And the one thing you need to make sure that you do when you are actually getting seed down, that the soil stays a little bit moist for the first couple of weeks whilst it's germinating. So I'm using the same rake that I used when I was actually leveling the surface of this soil. It's got some nice teeth on it, just to help break up that top layer of the topsoil. Now, you've got to be careful when you're doing this, because what you don't want to do is move too much material around, because there is a nice level surface to this area at the moment, and if I rake it too aggressively, then I'm going to end up moving too much of the topsoil around, and you can end up with high spots and low spots. So just a light rake is all you need to do. So there we go. Now that the soil's broken up, we can start getting on with some of the grass seed. So as ever, the grass seed I've opted to go for this time is the Premiership Pro grass seed mix from A1 Lawn. Now, if you've knocked around on this channel for a while, you'll know that the Premiership Pro grass seed is the same seed that I've used on all of my lawns. Now, the reason I use the Premiership Pro grass seed is because it's a hard wearing grass seed mix, and all that means is that it can take a lot of foot traffic without becoming too stressed. Now, like any grass seed, it will become stressed if you do walk along it too often. However, it is more resistant to prolonged use, and it will bounce back faster as well after some stressful periods. But the grass seed you choose will just entirely depend on what you're going to be using the lawn for. If you're never going to be stepping onto your lawn except for when you actually cut it, then you can go for more ornamental types of grass seeds, ones that, you know, don't need to be as hard wearing. I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that I am a grass seed expert. All I know is that I've tried different grass seeds in the past, and I've always found that the Premiership Pro grass seed mix always works for my lawns. And it's the case of, you know, if you find something that works, then don't go changing it or mixing it up. Stick with it if it does exactly what you want. So to apply the seed to the lawn, I'm using the Scott's Drop Spreader. Now, you can pick this up on Amazon or in one of your local garden centres for, I think they're going now for around about £50, £60-ish, which for what it is quite expensive. But the reason I like to go with a drop spreader as opposed to, you know, the hand spreaders where you turn them and it flicks the grass seed out is because I've not got a massive space that I'm working with in my garden, and a drop spreader just gives you that little bit more control as to how well you distribute the seed. You can see that up near the handle, you can spin this dial here, and the higher the number, the larger the holes are going to be on the bottom of the spreader when you actually pull the handle, and obviously the smaller the number, the smaller the holes. I don't just use this spreader for grass seed, I use it for fertilisers too, so it's quite versatile. The fact that it's got this dial at the top, so you can really tune in the exact setting that you need. Now what I have found with grass seed is it's better to keep it on a higher setting. So when I put grass seed down, I usually put it on the highest setting that this drop spreader goes to, which is 18. So anywhere from 16 to 18 is a good setting for the grass seed, and that's purely because of the actual shape of the grass seed. Because it's quite long, if you have it on a smaller setting, sometimes the grass seed can get clogged in the spreader and then it's not going to be distributed evenly across your lawn. Now in terms of how much grass seed you actually have to put down, I eyeball it. I don't go with a specific amount, I don't weigh it out. I've tried doing that in the past, but it becomes a massive job, in my opinion, a little bit of unnecessary work, because you can't always get it perfectly exact across your lawn. So what I tend to do is put quite a lot of grass seed in the spreader so that's not going to run out, but then I eyeball how much I'm going to put down on my lawn as I'm going, but I'll show you that when we actually get on the lawn with the spreader. Also, something to mention, it is quite a windy day here today, so if you have got a big open space, again, a drop spreader is going to be useful for that, because it's only having to drop the seed a short distance, whereas if you've got the hand spreaders and you're standing up, your seed might just fling all over the show. Now when using a drop spreader, you do need to make sure you go at a consistent pace, because as the wheels move, it's moving the mechanism inside, which is agitating the grass seed, allowing it to then drop down through the holes below. So you can see with the drop spreader on setting 18, this is roughly how much grass seed you're going to have on your lawn after the first pass. Now each of the seeds have quite a lot of space around them, and this is too spread out, so I do want to get on and do at least one more pass just to make sure we've got plenty of grass seed on there. So after the second pass, you can see there's much more grass seed knocking about, but I am going to do one more pass with the drop spreader because I want it to be slightly more dense than this. You have got to anticipate a few things when you seed a lawn from scratch. The first of which is that sometimes birds will come and take the grass seed, so you know, bird takes a big thing, but also as well, not every grass seed is going to survive. Some of them will just decompose and won't fully germinate. That's just the nature of the beast, and depending on how old your bag of grass seed is. So for example, my bag over here is around about 2 or 3 months old, so it's not going to be as effective as it was from the first day I actually bought it. I decided to do a fourth pass, just going the opposite way as well, just to make sure that the coverage was really even across the space. And although there is quite a lot of grass seed on this space now, you can see each grass seed has its own space to germinate. If you end up putting too much grass seed down to the point where they're all sitting on top of each other, what will happen is all those grass plants are going to be fighting for all the same nutrients, for the same water, and inevitably your lawn's then going to struggle and it'll look less thick because you'll end up with disease and yellowing in your lawn. So I'll finish off by actually hand seeding the perimeter of the lawn. The key with doing the edges is just try your best to actually blend it so there's the same sort of distribution that you have in the centre of the space that you're seeding. So there we go, the seeding part is done, and theoretically you can leave the lawn as it is now, and the next 2-3 weeks it's going to start to germinate and start to thicken up. However, if you do leave it like this, you're not going to get the best results. And that's because, as I've just said before, bird take is a big problem if you actually leave your seed exposed. And the key to reduce bird take is to get on and to top dress with compost. Now, when you do get on with the compost, you don't want to be putting a massive thick layer of it down, because then you're going to hinder the actual germination rate of the grass seed. Like I said before, you technically don't need any top dressing for the grass to germinate. So if you put any down, it has to be a very, very thin layer. So it's just literally covering the actual seed, not smothering it. And another reason why I think compost is great to top dress with as well is because it puts a lot of nutrients down into the soil, which is going to help the plants early on. You can use topsoil to do this, and you're going to get similar results as what you will with the compost. You're going to get better results with the compost because of its organic content. Now, the best thing to do with this is just to take your time. If you rush it, you end up with high spots of compost, and like I said before, you just want a really thin layer across the grass seeds. Now, something you might have actually noticed too is that the actual ground here has become a lot more compact now. So before, when I raked the actual soil, I made it quite loose at the top so that the grass seeds could fit in amongst all the different gaps. But as I've been going on and adding more grass seed, and as I'm getting on now with the compost, and I'm stepping along all this grass seed and soil, and I'm actually pressing each of the grass seeds into the soil, getting a really good contact between the seed and the soil itself. And again, that's just going to help with the germination. So even though it's getting a little bit more compact like it was at the start, it's a good thing now because the seed's being pressed down into the soil. There we go, a big piece of bark just fell out of this one. So you get big pieces of wood like this, just get rid of them because they're not going to be useful in your lawn. Now, you can get compost spreaders to do this job, which means that, you know, actually putting the compost down would go from taking maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes to being about a 2-minute job, but they're around about £250. It is on my list at the moment, but it's not something that I have necessarily got the funds for now, particularly as we're getting towards the end of the lawn care season. Another method would just be to dump the bags out whole and then rake them about, but I think the only issue with actually doing that is you're going to disturb a lot of your seed placement, so you'll end up having to do a lot more overseeding with having quite a few bare patches, and then you might have a lot of grass seed growing in like a really confined space, and that's, like what I said before, is what you want to try to avoid. That's a bit annoying. Coming to the end of the first bag, I've got about maybe a square metre to go. I bought 4 bags of this compost this morning, and luckily I'm using it for more than just this lawn today, so the rest of the bag won't be going to waste. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk across the entire lawn, digging my heels in just ever so slightly, just to make sure that the seed has got good contact with the soil below, and also that the compost is being pressed on top of the seed ever so slightly, which is going to then aid in the germination, because the seed's going to be nice and secure between the layer of soil and compost, and it's going to enable it to actually retain that moisture more easily too. And And there we go, that's how you actually seed a brand new lawn from scratch. Now, in terms of how long you've got to wait before this becomes an established lawn, you're looking from anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. Now, after the first week, you might start to see a little bit of germination and it won't look like a massive change whatsoever, but give it about 2 weeks and the grass should be starting to actually get into the swing of things by getting a bit of length. And then by the 3rd or 4th week mark, you'll be able to give it its first cut. And then every few days after that, if you continue to cut it, the lawn's really going to thicken up. Right, so it's been 9 days since we seeded this lawn and it's already looking pretty decent. You can see we've had quite a lot of germination across the lawn and the actual blades have started to grow, actually looking quite tall now. So most of them are around about 2 inches at this point now, which is really good for, 9 days worth of growth. You can see if you look sort of low down at the lawn, it's looking, quite thick to an extent, but as you sort of pan upwards, you can see there's quite a lot of gaps in and around where the grass blades are, but there's no need to panic at this stage. You can see here down at the front, we've got all these tall grass blades here, but if you get in a little bit closer and just get to focus, you can see there's lots of germination going on around this part here, and that's the same thing that goes for the rest of the lawn too. So at this stage, you don't really want to be thinking about overseeding at all. Even though some of the grass plants have got off to a cracking start, there are still some that are still in the really early stages of germination. So it is going to thicken up over time, and you've got to remember that each of these grass blades is going to become one grass plant, which is going to be, made up of multiple grass blades. So over time, it will start to thicken. So I'm going to give this about another week or so, and then I'll decide whether it's time to give it a cut or not, just depending on how long the lawn is and how the rest of it is getting on. And there we go, it's been about 2.5 weeks now and the lawn is looking pretty decent. So you can see after 2.5 weeks the growth is absolutely brilliant. From above you can still see some of these spaces, but after the first few cuts, they're all going to fill in once the lawn starts to grow laterally. So I am going to be giving this lawn a cut over the next couple of days, and I'll keep you up to date with the progress of how it gets on over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So thanks for watching today's video. If you found it useful or you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like. And if you'd like to check out any of my other videos, such as my garden renovation series or any of this lawn renovation, then head over to my channel, and if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe. Finally, thanks for watching.